Oh, wow. This has been an interesting week. Crying CEO, Anne Hesh getting nailed right and left for her issues around addiction. What happens when people get vulnerable in public spaces, especially on social media? Even more close to home is what happens when they get vulnerable on LinkedIn. I mean, only 860 million people. Let's just bring it on. That's exactly what we're about to do. We're going to bring it on. I have brought on, I would say, kind of like the king of vulnerability, a man who knows how to do this in a way that is real, authentic, and also in a way that is not necessarily putting him and his reputation, his brand, his thoughts, his thought leadership at risk. So, in case you haven't guessed it, it's Chris O'Connell. So, Chris, good morning. Thank you for being here from across the pond. So happy that you're here, especially to talk about vulnerability.
Thank you so much. Good morning to you and good afternoon for the UK viewers. I'm thrilled. You was on my show last week, which is going out next week. I can't wait to talk to you. I'm glad that we're live. It's exciting. Thank you.
You are so welcome. I also put there in the chat, please, if you're tuning in, how do you feel about being vulnerable on LinkedIn? And please get real. You can say, just tell it like it is. Say the truth, because understanding that some people have a lot of apprehension about it, and other people think that, hey, you know what? This is a public forum. Why not? And so what we're going to start with kind of right off the bat is tell us why you have been so transparent and such an advocate for speaking out about topics that could be considered a little bit, I won't say necessarily controversial, but certainly not the typical professional speak that some people want to exercise on LinkedIn.
Well, I mean, I was invited on. I mean, I suffered quite a lot with suicide attempts, my own depression for 5 years. I've been quite vocal about the childhood I've endured, and just kind of being open on LinkedIn. And the first time I did it was about 5 years ago. I was invited onto a webinar by a guy called Andrew Silito, and he said, "You're a great leadership coach, but you can choose a subject of your choice." And I chose vulnerability on LinkedIn because at the time I was going through such a dark time. I felt as if I needed to just tell my story on with the intention that I believed it would help others. I knew it would help me, and it was just something that I felt I needed to do. And ever since I've done that, I've pivoted and built my business. So I think that there are times when I articulate myself really well. There are times where I do a live or do a video and I've got sweaty armpits and I'm anxious as anything. So right here, right now, I'm probably somewhere in, just to let you know, probably somewhere in between. It might come across as this, so I just think the power of being yourself, the power of telling your story, I just don't think you can beat that. So I don't think that answers your question. I just there's not a reason. I just felt compelled to do it.
Well, that is reason, right? That you may have felt all jammed up in there, and just having some release in a healthy way can really be the ability, certainly the ability to connect with others. And we're going to talk about some of the nuances between what it's like to be vulnerable, what it's like to use vulnerability as clickbait, what it's like for candidates who run the risk of compromising their candidacy. And so I want to include, just shout out to in that, thank you. I've grown comfortable sharing bits of my personal life, but not my cringe when I see coaches encouraging people to be vulnerable to increase. Here's the nuance. Do not use this as a motivation for personal gain.
I think that's right. I think that having lived as a CEO built a business, a multi-million pound business, which I lost. When I was a CEO of this big business, I know for a fact I wasn't vulnerable. I would put a mask on. I became this different person. I became very dictatorial, very egotistical, and very superficial. When I lost all of that, I became vulnerable because I was vulnerable. So I think that vulnerability is a superpower if it's done in a way where your intentions are right. And I think you're either authentic or you're not with it. So it's as simple as that. And I do take the point, but I would also encourage that for the suicide rates in men of my age are the highest, and I think that we need to be careful not to stop men wanting to cry and be vulnerable as well. I think there's a real fine line with this. So for me, I'd sooner be myself and be open, be authentic, be vulnerable, not for likes and business, but to actually just be myself. I'm just being myself. That's it.
Exactly. Another person who we both love and admire,
Yeah.
who has been amazingly courageous, talking about his love life, talking about things that happened in his divorce every single month. Thank you, Niraj. He shares the things that went well and the things that tanked.
Absolutely.
There's really no sugarcoating. And another dear colleague and also advocate for mental health and all kinds of holistic, practices in and out of the job search. Niatu, thank you. We are human, and that condition doesn't stop. Hello, Lisa Rengel. Think through outcomes. Once it's shared, you can't put the genie back in the bottle, and be prepared to accept whatever outcomes manifest as where you're supposed to be to the lessons that you learned. So I think that this is a great springboard, a great kind of turning point in this conversation.
Yeah.
I personally, just so you guys know, I am very comfortable with the vulnerability. I'm not here to put on any kind of facade. I mean, clearly, like I'm doing this, I'm doing these lives, but at the same time, my intention, my purpose is really very single-minded. I just want to be useful. And here it is. You just read my mind. Check your motives. Why are you sharing on social media? To help others, to be useful, or as a way to soothe or stroke your ego? So that will backfire every single time. So be careful. And I want to talk a little bit about this genie in the bottle, right? Because you've shared about parental alienation.
Yeah.
You need to love yourself. Talk to us about what happens and how you actually calibrate how much you are sharing, or don't you?
I don't have a barometer. I don't go into it thinking, when I post something vulnerable, how many likes am I going to get, or what people think. My honest intention is I'm doing this because it actually helps me to talk about it, and it encourages other people. If I think we all know that if and when you do talk about stuff, it can help you. I'm not saying that everyone has to do it, but you do have to be prepared for the consequences. But we're living in a day and age where everything's on social media anyway, and I think that for me is I've only ever gained a lot of comfort around talking about it in a public forum, but it's not for everybody. So it's the people that say you must do it or you mustn't do it. You got to find your own lane, and it's very easy to judge somebody for not doing it and judge somebody for doing it. Who's to say that by not doing it on social media is right as well? I think we're all individual people, and we've all got a right to say and talk how we want. This is my LinkedIn profile. This is my post. If I want to talk about it, I will. But if I then get a backlash, there's an element of truth in that. But what I didn't like about what happened with the CEO was, I think his intention was good. It was clouded by his emotion. The way he executed it was very poor, and it looked a bit contrived. So that was a lot of stuff there that you could say you could aim at him. But I think the quantum of abuse that he got on a viral basis, or people jumping on the bandwagon, was actually far worse than the post itself.
I echo every sentiment that you shared. So, and I say that, you know, back to Lisa's comment, what was his motive? We will never know, truly.
Yeah.
And I have invited him on this show. I haven't heard back from him yet because I want to understand. I want to understand, and I want him to have an opportunity to actually address, because he's the barrage of negativity and just shameless, you know, like points and digs at him really was probably over the top. But you know, he set it up, he made a mistake, so like, yeah, it happens.
There's two schools of thoughts, right? People think that crying on social media is an act, or it can be seen as manipulative or deceiving. But if it's a genuine thing, and it helps other people, I just think stay in your lane. If you don't like it, but have some comments, have some feedback, but just why don't you try and educate, have a debate about it, as opposed to having one fixed opinion? Because normally the truth is somewhere in the middle, right? And I think sometimes people get so transfixed
his side, her side, and the truth, right? Right. I love this. Thank you, Karen. Keyword is intention. What is the intention? What is the reason why you're doing this? Getting likes or speaking authentically about your experience. However, it can be tricky. Can you speak about the possible backlash, a la the crying CEO? And I think that we just touched on the CEO, but what I want to steer this to is where should we, as people in the hiring process and or the candidate lane, live? We want people to know, like, and trust us, right? Like, here we are, like gold standard, like get people to know, like, and trust you. And at the same time, be very, very cautious and aware that your social media feed is up for grabs.
Yeah.
So what are your recommendations, both on the hiring side? So you're now a decision maker.
Yeah.
And you come across as being overly vulnerable. Are you putting the company at risk? Are you, kind of setting up maybe less than positive or maybe very positive, impression of the company or your leadership? And then how does that work on the other end?
I think it's about 10 years ago, what hiring managers look for is different to what they look for now. I do think compassion, empathy, the softer skills are becoming much more prevalent in decision making and what people want in their lives. Like, candidates don't necessarily just want money; they want development. They want to be heard. They want to be part of the table and decision making. I think that you've got to understand what you want from both sides of the equation. So I think that there's a big sense of entitlement with hiring managers sometimes, where they expect the candidate to jump how high, or they expect the candidate to be this inferior being. They expect the candidate to only answer questions and not be asked questions themselves. So I think there's a big change whereby the candidates are calling the shots a little bit more. I think where a job seeker might go wrong is they'll put the client on a pedestal, and because the employer is paying them the wages, automatically they should be able to dictate. And I think actually, by being yourself, that's what you're going to attract anyway. So if you're in the interview and the employer isn't willing to answer any of your questions, that's a red flag. And more often than not, I think we can ignore those red flags because we're under the pressure of, we better conform. And if as a hiring manager, if I saw a candidate asking me questions and was opening up, I see that as a massive positive. So maybe do your due diligence first, do your research first, but write down what you want from life. What are your own values? If empathy, compassion, soft skills, vulnerability is important to you, look for that in your employer. If it's not, it doesn't matter.
Right. So setting up that criteria is helpful. Oh man, look at this comment from Niatu. In my training as a therapist, we were taught the concept of selective self-disclosure. Brilliant, brilliant term. The key is self-check was around. The key self-check was around, will this help my client in their process? Again, strong intentionality. Will this help our therapeutic relationship? Or is this me trying to work out my own stuff using my client? These three basic questions help to check our motive. And I think the same can apply to self-disclosure on social media. And this is just not only great direction, but you put this into practice, Niatu. I've seen many, many, many posts about you talking about things that you learned from your therapist, what it's like being a dad and now a new dad again, and other things with respect to, private conversations that you and I have had. So kudos to that. Bob McIntosh, you can trust that I'll deliver job search advice in my posts. Okay, here's his line. But personal responses to those who comment. I love to continue the conversation in a personal manner. So here's somebody that initiates with something that's very, very clean in the job search area, and then the follow-ups are warmer.
I think that's okay, but I think, again, I think life has changed a little bit. I mean, I think that the moment I started being a bit more vulnerable and asking more personal questions and being open myself with my team, hey, guess what? They started to do that with me. So, and what I uncovered was their issues, their problems, what their blocks were, why they weren't being productive, and they felt more comfortable in talking to me. Actually, it wasn't anything that the business did. It wasn't the operations. It wasn't me. It wasn't the management. There's some stuff going on at home, and then we got to know that and we addressed that. They felt more comfortable, and then they delivered. So I think I don't think there's this work-life balance anymore. I'm sorry. I think the two are merging, and I do think there does need to be a degree of separation. But with work from home, work from anywhere, social media, you've got a lens into people's lives. I don't think it's just as black and white. It was business is business and personal. Leaving your personal stuff at home, that's ridiculous. You've got to understand what's going on with your team inside and outside of work. That's my view.
And I know that there's another kind of deeper intentionality behind this. And what you've said in many of your posts and in conversations offline that you and I have had, if you're not happy in your personal life, good luck
100%
being 100%. Happy in your professional life. And so I only wish at times I was able to clearly compartmentalize. I think that it's clearly with the pandemic. Now, here we are. I'm in my house. You're in your house. I don't have a dog right now, but that could happen. The dog is barking, that this is happening. The kids are screaming, whatever is happening. We are in each other's homes, in our lives, and we're working. And we're working. And for some people, we're having interviews at odd times when my family's having dinner or when something is happening. So the merging and the enmeshment between home and work has really started to get very, very blurry. And I would imagine that it's going to continue.
I can only point to my own example as well. And when I started out on LinkedIn properly only about a couple of years ago, because I took 5 years out of LinkedIn, I know they're just numbers, but I had 28,000 followers. I didn't have any clients. I had no clients at all. I didn't know where to start. I started being vulnerable, started being open, started being myself, entwining that with my business and my skill. And I pivoted a brand new business, a multi-million-pound business, because of being myself and being authentic. And I've won customers, huge accounts by just being myself. It's not about just being vulnerable, but I think that people see through this veneer. I've got my suit and tie and I've got my corporate logo behind me, and my name is Chris O'Connell and I work for this business. People want to know the person. I'm sorry. I think that's certainly how the world is going. And I think unless people start to change with that, they're going to get left behind with the times.
Interesting. So, again, not doing it just to gain clients or to gain visibility in your job search, to do it from the right starting point. I want to talk about something else that I consider to be vulnerability victory. That's what I'm going to call it. I just named it right here. Why, of all people, did you, a man, decide that you were going to launch the first LinkedIn directory of 1,000 women who inspire from their work? Why?
That's
What was the thinking behind that? Because I actually think that was a bold, vulnerable, and amazing move. And I don't mean move like, oh, it was so orchestrated. I mean, I don't think there was necessarily here. How can I be vulnerable with this LinkedIn directory?
No, not
What
at all.
was the thinking behind it?
I think historically we can all concede that the majority of women had a rough ride in the workplace in terms of pay and opportunity and all that kind of stuff. And having been in the sector for 25 years and worked with some amazing women, I think there's a lot of unsung heroes. And I think that operationally at board level, when there's more women involved, they tend to run really well. So a blend of both. But over the last couple of years, I've built a lot of friends up on LinkedIn. You're one of them, female friends. And I just put a post out about a month ago saying, here's 30 inspirational women that I love and enjoy, and they're doing some great work. Please tag more women. And then within 2 hours, it went from 30 to like 400. And then by a couple of hours, it's 700. I was like, what's this? And then one of my female friends on there said, why don't you drop a directory? I was like, okay. And then I did. And then like within like 3 weeks, we had a 1,250 women all indexed and categorized in this wonderful directory whereby we've built community. They've all connected with each other. They've got loads of business from each other. And it's just been such a pleasurable thing to do. And now we're at over 2,000. Issue 2 is going to be 2,000. It's going to be more featured women, a more defined index. So the concept is just to give women a bit more of a spotlight and to make it a bit more of an even keel.
Yes. So I did put the link to the directory is in the chat. This is kind of like a little bit of a dicey issue, only because why does it have to be amazing women, right? Because sometimes women are like, well, we're just another type of people.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm curious if there's been any pokes or backlash to this.
Wow, I think I could be Mother Teresa or the Dalai Lama. There's always going to be one or two people. So I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I've probably had over 3,000 or 4,000 direct messages. I've been overwhelmed with. So there's only been one or two people that've gone, you've done this for ill gain and all this kind of stuff. Why can't you do a men's one? My response was, well, I'm not stopping you. Why can't you do one either? But the point about it is that there's a lot of evidence to suggest that women are underrepresented in this. So it's just to give women a bit of a lift and to do something nice on the thing. So, I haven't, to be honest, I haven't really looked into it. I didn't expect it to go the way it was going. I had no idea it was going to go like this. So
right. So just so you know, I'm going to take a leap here. You're not getting paid for that. You're not doing this for profit.
Oh my God! I mean, it's cost me thousands of pounds to get it done, and time and energy. And it's not about that. It's just a project that's close to my heart, and I think it's a good thing to. There's enough. I think what I've noticed, and I think you concur on LinkedIn the last couple of months, has been a lot of fighting and a lot of negativity. So I just think it's a nice thing to do as well.
Yes, I actually did a post earlier this week about piling on and how that temptation to want to kind of like get in there and watch the street fight is also complicit to being a part of something that is not necessarily, loving on your fellow person, right? I mean, that's you start going down that road, and you'll watch the activity go viral.
Yeah.
Is that really necessarily, back to Niatu's point, is this about me using this platform for ill intent, or is
you also need to be careful though. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a platform that is designed to win business for people. I'm not saying that I'm doing that or you're doing that, but ultimately we're all salespeople at the end of the day. So are we saying we can never post anything unless there's? I think hang on a second. I think there's a good way and a wrong way and a right way to do things. And I think you can tell the people that are out there in a devious, manipulative way, but I don't think you can necessarily criticize people for putting themselves out there and also gaining from it in some way, because that's just life.
I'm actually going to put this in the So I learned this a long time ago. For some reason, it's been seared in my brain
Yeah.
that the definition of tact is making your point without making an enemy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I encourage people to be contrarian if that's true for them. Right.
Yeah.
So it isn't about, oh yes, that's amazing. Like you do not have to placate to that, but also to be mindful of whether it's a gotcha or a dig that you want to cast upon somebody else.
Yeah.
So in the last couple of minutes, I really want to talk about your podcast because this is a podcast that you should definitely add to your queue. I want to really talk about what it is that you are focusing on in your podcast, your leadership podcast, and where people can find you after this is over and they want to know, okay, like, should I follow this guy or not? So give us a clarity, creep into that.
Thank you. Well, it's called the Purpose-Led Leadership Podcast, and I'm delighted to say that you're on next Tuesday, which is good. And the clues in the title is about purpose, and it's about, for me, purpose is the most important thing in your life. It's about being the CEO of your life. If you've got a destination and a reason and meaning for doing something, you tend to be a lot happier. And I think a lot of people in this world are going from day to day, week to week, month to month, and just living by their, what they're earning or, and everything else. And there's no kind of meaning to it. And for me, I built a massive multi-million pound business and lost it. And I only gained my purpose the last 3 or 4 years. So it's about bringing guests on and talking to them open-hearted about, I don't necessarily care about your achievements. I want to know about you as a human being. Why are you on this earth? And it's just having conversations like that. We've had professional footballers on there. We've had multi-billion pound business owners on there. We've had people break down in tears on there and cry on there. And it's about a human to human connection, about just being real and being authentic and being real. And I think that you're the epitome of someone who, and we've only just become friends the last couple of weeks, right? Mm-hmm. But I think we're going to be friends for years. And I think, going back to the vulnerability point and the purpose point, we wouldn't have met if we weren't vulnerable and didn't have a purpose. So that's what
true. What is your purpose? What are you, to your definition? Yeah. What are you here on earth to do?
I believe every single one of us, and some people are going to think this is...
I want to know about you.
Yeah, every single one of us have gifts. And I think my gift on this world is to mentor, guide and teach and coach people to be the best versions of themselves on a global scale. I honestly now believe that. So my purpose is to impact as many people as possible, to enlighten themselves, to find their purpose and to be better versions of themselves.
Amen. I know that you have a couple of scrappy little boys at home, and I know you've been through, as I've been through, many, 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 many parenting challenges. What is the lesson that you impart on them that we can all benefit from? Because, early on, we're not thinking about our purpose. We're thinking about, like, can I stay up late? Can I, how long do I have to, be outside or play Xbox or any of those kinds of things? I'm probably dating myself because I don't even think Xbox exists anymore.
I think it sounds strange, but it is to be comfortable being yourself and not really worrying about what other people think. And I think even it's only taken me the last couple of years to realize that. And kids are great at that. They can come in and scream and do their stuff, but conformity, what they're told, it can suppress them. So sometimes my 8-year-old, he's a boy and he'll scream like a girl, and I'll let him do it, or he'll shout, and sometimes just let them be and let them do. So for me, it's just encouraging expression and being proud of who they are, and just positive language.
Yes. I think it takes quite a while to be comfortable in your own skin. At least it did for me. So I wish that for everyone, whether it's on social media and they want to bring it forward or whether it's not. What I want to leave this conversation with is, if you want to get vulnerable and you need an ear, I'm available. I really am. My purpose in life is very simple. It's just to be useful. And literally, I hope when I am ready to take an exit, somebody takes all my parts and does something with them, and hopefully makes a great collage or whatever they want to do with it. I really, really feel excited about being able to offer something in any small, big, in between way. So you have literally been such a big part of this. I'm so glad that we met. I'm so
Yes.
glad that I got vulnerable and reached
Yes.
out to you and asked you about your directory. And I'm so grateful that we are now partners in crime.
Absolutely.
Team
Watch out,
vulnerability.
everybody. I'm thrilled to know you, and this is just the beginning, right? So, no, thank you so much. I'm humbled and honoured.
Yes. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you,
Thank you
everybody.
for coming, and we'll see you around. Chris, hang around for 2 minutes
Yeah.
afterwards. I know you gotta pick up, but we'll wrap this up real quick. Thanks,
Yeah.
guys. Bye.